If you're over 50 and you're looking to lose weight, then today's video is going to give you all the strategies you need to do so. If you don't know who I am, my name is Harlow and I'm the Over-50's specialist physio here at HT Physio in Farnham. And today I'm going to be giving you 10 tips to help you lose weight if you're over 50 and keep that weight off as well. Now, weight loss is a big problem that I try and help my clients with, and even though I'm not a PT, I'm not a dietitian, I am a physiotherapist, and it's still relevant for the people I see, because the people I see, they often have problems, painful issues that are made worse by extra weight that they're carrying. And many of these people have tried lots of different techniques to lose weight. They might have tried crash diets or juice diets or followed a plan from a personal trainer, and for whatever reason it's just not worked very well. So these 10 tips are going to be giving you a surefire way to lose fat if you're over 50 and hopefully to keep it off as well. Now, there's absolutely no need for us to complicate things. Having too much body fat is basically just as a result of eating more calories than you burn. And if we do this for a long enough period of time, we're going to gain body fat. So what we're going to talk about are practical ways to reduce that body fat. And the first thing we're going to discuss is calories. So my first tip to you, if you're looking to reduce body fat, is to track your calories. Now, everything we eat has what we would call a calorific content, and luckily we can find that on the food packaging from the things we buy. Now, calories are basically units of energy that determine how much energy is in the food we eat. So if we eat something that's very fatty, that has a lot of calories in it, and if we eat something that's full of fiber and protein, that tends to have less calories in it. So it's worth reading the packaging of the foods that you buy to determine what's high calorie and what's low calorie, and prioritizing the things that are going to make you feel fuller without having lots of calories inside them. Now, what I recommend to my clients is they sign up to an app like MyFitnessPal. I'm not an affiliate, but it's the one that I personally use, and you can use it for free to track everything that you eat. You put it into the app and it will tell you at the end of the day how many calories you've eaten. And it's worth just tracking this for a week or two and seeing what happens with your body weight as you track, because it will give you an idea of whether you're overeating or undereating. So if you lose weight when you're tracking, you know that you're eating less than you burn. And if you gain weight when you're tracking, you know that the stuff in the diary is causing you to eat more calories than you're burning. Now, sometimes just tracking the calories can be enough to lose weight. I've had clients where I've told them to start tracking what they eat, not to make any changes, just to record everything they put down. And just because they're tracking things, it makes them feel more conscious of what they're eating and they make better choices as a result. So for many people, just tracking what you eat is enough to get the scales moving in the right direction, and it's a brilliant way to start your weight loss journey. Now, the second tip, and this is to do with calories as well, is to maintain a calorie deficit. Now, as I said before, if you're gaining weight at the moment, you know that your calories are too high. And if you're losing weight at the moment, you know that you're in what we call a calorie deficit. So you're eating less than you burn. So to lose fat, we need to make sure you're in a calorie deficit. And for most people, we want to be in a calorie deficit of between 200 and 500 calories each day. That usually keeps fat loss at a sustainable level without making you too hungry because you're not eating enough. So on this side of the table, we've got the food intake. So this is number of calories eaten per day. In the middle here, we have something called your basal metabolic rate, which is your BMR. And basically that dictates how many calories your body burns just to stay alive without any exercise or activity. And then this column here is how many calories you burn with exercise each day. So a mass equation of that minus that will give you your calorie balance at the end of the day. So what we're shooting for is a calorie balance in the negative. And if we do that consistently, we will lose weight. So let's look at the top one. So for the first person here, they're eating 2,500 calories each day, which is about average for many people. Now, their basal metabolic rate is running at 2,000 calories. and that is sort of about average for a grown adult man. And that's how many calories your body needs just to stay alive. So your muscles and your brain and all your processes inside the body. Now this person here is doing 500 calories of exercise per day. So that's typically one sort of moderate walk. And because they have eaten 2,500, burnt 2,000 just being alive, and burnt another 500 with their walk, their balance is 0. So this person, if they did that every day, they would stay exactly the same weight until one of these numbers changes. Now let's go down. So this person, same person here, is only eaten 2,000 calories on this day. So they cut 500 calories off their food. Their BMR stays the same, their walk stays the same, but because they cut down their food by 500, they finish the day negative 500, which means that they were in a 500 calorie deficit. So this person here will lose weight, and they will lose the equivalent weight to what adds up to 500 calories. So if each gram of fat contains 9 calories, so this person here is going to lose around 50 to 55 grams of fat that day. Now that's not a perfect calculation. Don't take that as gospel. It's just a rough guide to give you an idea of how this works. Now let's look at this person down here. So this person here has gone out for a meal. They ate more on this day. They ate 3,000 calories. Their BMR stayed the same. They did less exercise, so only burnt 200 calories. And all of a sudden they're in 800 calories of surplus. So they've eaten 800 calories more than they've burned. And as a result, they're going to gain weight from this day. So if we can have more days like this than days like this, we will end up losing weight. You don't have to hit it every single day, but over the balance of time, we have to be in this zone more than this zone if we want to lose fat. Now, the third tip to help you lose more body fat is to prioritize protein. Now, protein is one of the macronutrients that makes up our diet, and keeping your protein intake high does a couple of things. The first thing it does is it keeps you fuller for longer. Things like meat, fish, eggs, and various plant sources of protein as well keep you fuller, so you're less hungry later on in the day. And this particularly works well if you have protein early in the day for breakfast. Protein also does something else very important. It will help you to maintain your muscle mass while you're in a calorie deficit. If you just cut your calories down really far and you don't eat plenty of protein, yes, you'll lose body fat, but you'll also lose a lot of muscle as well. And this is how many people go wrong. They lose weight, but a lot of that weight is muscle. And we see that on these juice diets and these crash diets. Yes, the person gets slimmer very quickly, but they've lost all their muscle mass, and it's very hard to regain it. So you need to prioritize protein in order to maintain your muscle mass. The guidelines typically recommend most people who just want to maintain and lead a healthy life, they eat 1 gram per kilogram of body weight per day. I know I said in a previous video to gain more muscle, we should shoot for 1 gram per pound, which is roughly double. But that's if we want to maximize muscle gain. If we just want to stay healthy, 1 gram per kilogram is enough for most people. So that's what most people should shoot for. Obviously, that varies from person to person. So make sure you get checked out with your doctor before you significantly increase your protein intake. The fourth tip I've got for you for losing more body fat is to continue resistance training. Now, resistance training is a form of exercise where we move against weight or we move against our body weight. And resistance training has been shown to be brilliant at maintaining muscle mass when we're cutting down fat and also accelerating the rate of fat loss. Now, a lot of people say to me, they say, oh, because I'm losing weight, I should be doing lots of cardio. Is that right? And I say, you can do cardio, but you're actually better off prioritizing resistance training. And that's for a couple of reasons. Number one is that even though cardio helps you to burn fat, it doesn't do very much for maintaining muscle mass, whereas resistance training will help you maintain what you've got and grow new muscle mass as a result as well. And the other thing it does is it actually speeds up your metabolism a lot more than cardio. So cardio, like running, walking and cycling, is great for elevating your heart rate and your calorie burn during the exercise. But resistance training not only elevates it during, but it keeps it higher for the rest of the day. So if you do lots of cardio, you get a big burn while you're doing it, then it drops off when you stop. With weight training, you get a big burn while you're doing it and it stays higher as the day goes on. So you end up burning as net more calories. If you have more muscle mass, it also increases your metabolism overall. So you'll burn more calories just by being alive. If you look at bodybuilders as an extreme example, they take 4,500 calories just to stay the same weight, even if they're not exercising. And it's because they've got a ton more muscle mass and it burns more calories as a result. So if you've got more muscle, you can eat more food without gaining weight. If you eat less and you've got more muscle, you'll burn more fat as a result. The fifth tip I've got for you is daily walking. And for most people, walking is such a good exercise to support weight loss, and it's vastly underestimated as a tool to help you increase your calorie burn. Now, walking is easy enough for most people. It puts minimal stress and strain on the joints. It's good for the back, it's good for the knees, it's good for the lower legs. And if you walk in such a way that you're slightly out of breath but still able to hold a conversation, that puts you in what we call zone 2 cardio. And zone 2 cardio is a type of exercise that elevates your heart rate, it elevates your respiratory rate and causes more calorie burn, but you can keep sustaining it for longer. So for most people, I'd recommend sticking with a type of walking distance that's comfortable for you. You might shoot for somewhere between 7,000 and 10,000 steps as a starting point. That tends to work quite well. Obviously, you can add or take away depending on your fitness levels, but walking is a great thing to do to support your fat loss goal. Now, the sixth tip to lose more weight is to stay hydrated. Now, staying hydrated sounds like just a cliche that everyone says, but there are some very important points about hydration that will help you lose more fat. The first thing is that our brains and body can sometimes become confused with the sensation of hunger and thirst. So many times when we feel hungry or we've got a craving for something sweet or something fatty, we're actually just thirsty and our salt balance is off. So if we can have some water at those times, you might find that half the time you get cravings, they go away after you have a good drink of water. The other thing is the body needs to be well hydrated to engage in proper metabolic processes. So fat loss doesn't work very well if you're severely dehydrated. So keep hydrated to stop that. Now, the seventh tip I've got for you, and this is a controversial one, is to track your weight daily. Now, this scares the life out of many people who are trying to lose fat. They hate stepping onto the scales because they're worried about what the number will be. But tracking your weight is a really good motivator to keep going. I recommend to my clients that they weigh themselves not just once a week, but every single day. And the reason I recommend this is because the more you do something, the less likely you are to be scared of it. And the other reason is that tracking your weight, it can fluctuate quite a bit from day to day. And if you're only taking one reading per week, it might not be accurate. The best way to do it is to track it every single day and take an average for that week. So you take the average by adding all of your scores together over 7 days and then dividing it by the number of days that you measured yourself. And then you take that one number. It's much more accurate than doing it just once a week. Then you'll be able to see progress. And if you can see that number coming down from week to week to week, it's going to give you the motivation to carry on. So it's a really good tool. When you're measuring your weight, the most important thing is to do it at exactly the same time of day each time, and also with the exact same protocol. So I recommend most people take their weight first thing in the morning, just after they've been to the toilet and before they've eaten or drank anything at all. That will give you the best possible reading that you can get. Now, the eighth tip I've got for you to help you lose more weight is to consider intermittent fasting. Now, intermittent fasting took off a few years ago, and it's basically a protocol for eating where you only allow yourself to eat within a set window of time each day. Typically, that window is about 7 or 8 hours long. So you might find that the person has their first meal at 12 o'clock midday and their last meal at 8 p.m. You can obviously move that window to wherever you want it to be. And it was first thought that there was something magic about restricting feeding into this little window. Now that there's been more and more studies done, we see that even though there are some health benefits to doing it, The main benefit is just that we're limiting the number of meals we have each day, and then that is reducing calories as a result. So even though there's nothing magic about intermittent fasting and it's not superior to any other diet, it tends to be very easy to do, and it also will help you to restrict your calories in a nice, easy way. So intermittent fasting works well if you cut breakfast out. So you basically start your first meal at around lunchtime. And because you've eaten a big meal at lunchtime, typically, you're then not hungry for the rest of the day until the end of the day. You have your final meal at the end of the window, and then you go to bed. So that's typically how intermittent fasting works. And that basically means that most people go from having 3 meals to 2 meals each day, and it can work really well as a fat loss tool. Now, one thing to be careful of with intermittent fasting is some people tend to lose a lot of muscle mass when they do it. So if you find that you're getting quite skinny or you're losing too much muscle, you might want to increase your eating window or eat a little bit more in your window whilst you're doing it. Now, the 9th tip I've got for you, and this is something we touched on earlier, is to cut liquid calories. Now, many people don't realize how many calories they're drinking each day through the forms of fizzy drinks like soda, your Coca-Colas and your things like that. They have lots of sugar in them, and each gram of sugar is going to contribute to quite a few calories that you consume each day. Now, the bad thing about liquid calories is they don't fill you up at all, so you're still hungry afterwards, and they don't tend to provide much nutritional value. Now, the other place we get liquid calories from is alcohol. So I recommend that most people, when they're trying to lose fat, is they limit their alcohol down as much as possible. 1 gram of alcohol has 7 calories inside it, and none of those calories do anything very useful inside the body. So if we're being harsh, cutting alcohol completely will definitely help you to lose more fat. And then the final tip I've got for you, the 10th tip, is to occasionally allow yourself a little reward. Now, most people when they're dieting is they start off very, very strict, and they start to drop off the bandwagon where they get sick and tired of eating the same thing every day. It's super boring, they're hungry, and basically can be very off-putting over a period of time. One way to remedy this is to allow yourself something called a cheat meal. And a cheat meal is basically a meal where you're allowed to eat whatever you want. You can go to town on it and really eat something that's satiating and sugary and fatty, and it basically satisfies all the cravings. Now, we can't do these cheat meals very often, otherwise we'll put ourselves into a calorie surplus. But if we do 1 cheat meal a week, we can usually allow ourselves within reason to eat almost anything we want, and we can still make progress over the course of a week. Now, counting calories does still count here, so make sure you're not smashing back 5,000 calories in a meal. But if you eat something really nice, that can usually be enough just to stop the cravings for another week, and then you can get back on the bandwagon after. Now, the errors people make here is they do this too often. If you're doing this 2 or 3 times a week, it just won't work. Once a week tends to be a good place to start. And again, do still exercise control when you do it. Don't eat 8 Domino's pizzas, for example. But if you keep it within reasonable restrictions, it can really help with motivation, and it's something to look forward to. So those are the tips I've got for you. Hopefully that information will help you to lose more fat and to get some of the weight off so your painful problems hurt less as a result. If you've enjoyed this video and you want more from me, please subscribe to the channel below, and you can pick up a copy of my book. It's called Thriving Beyond 50, and you can find it on Amazon using the link below. It's got loads more helpful info like this. Anyway, thank you for watching. I appreciate your time and look forward to speaking to you on the next one.